I'd like to introduce you to Margot Murphy. Margot's got a background in economics and international business. Margot's worked for Fortune 100 companies, including Johnson & Johnson, AT&T, Lucent Technologies. Margot's been all over the world, 60 countries, 11 industries. She's written that book that's just popped on the screen, Global Operations, Resource Planning, Provisioning, you name it, Margot's done it in this space. This is her thing. She's also a radio host and a podcast contributor. Margot's put in a full year, 130 seminars across 17 states and 8 topics to put together the book. So this is primary research, which involved 2,400 participants of all ages, levels, and industries. So, we're very lucky to have a person like Margot, happy to throw in her weight. Right. So today we're going to be going through real quick, who are we, why are we here, the leadership challenges, the 7 required core skills, what makes us different, how do we measure vitality. We have a wonderful case study of vitality in action, boots on the ground. Margot, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Darren. So who are we? We're actually a team of proven executives. Together, we have experience in over 20 industries, which makes us very flexible. We've seen a lot, done a lot, and heard a lot, and we are all proven problem solvers. We understand your need for a proactive, loyal workforce, absolutely, particularly today. Your frustrations with high investment to solve employee lack of engagement, which has never worked. And we know that you need new answers right now. And people often ask me before we get started, they ask me, why did I get into doing this now? Well, the reality is I am passionate about human potential. And the statistic on employee lack of engagement that has been around for almost 20 years is that 85% of employees aren't engaged. And that means there's wasted human potential on every level, on every function, on every company, everywhere. And that's enormously painful. And now add to that this post lockdown where people don't want to come back to work and they have different experience. We'll get into that in a minute, but you really do need answers now. And the other two, I would like to just share 2 quotes that I think you may remember. Benjamin Franklin said, if there's one way of doing things, there's always a better way. We are here today to show you a better way to resolve lack of engagement. And also Wayne Dwyer said that when you look at things differently, what you look at changes. We'd like you to have an open mind as we take a look at looking at this differently, because it will change your view of what the problem is and what the solutions can be. So why are we different? How are we different from other consulting firms, from other people in this area? We redefine the problem and we focus on the cause, not the symptom. Employee lack of engagement is just a symptom. And we work from a CEO perspective. We don't work from the middle. We don't try and solve a problem in just one department. We provide a proven system to transform obsolete employee management methods that actually cause employee stagnation to vitality. And we also provide an actual 3-year boots on the ground case study that exemplifies the critical results. We have proven results from using the principles and practices in Vitalize Your Workforce. So we do feel your pain and we know it explicitly. Lack of engagement, as I said, has never been solved. We have a huge difficulty encouraging workers to return, and we have an immense struggle to retain them. And when I say retain them, when you get them back, how do you keep them? And then anybody, anywhere, the resignations are increasing exponentially. We have negative KPIs, continuing negative KPIs, and the cost of employee replacement is exponential. And the thing that goes along with employee replacement is your loss of wisdom in the company that actually keeps the processes and the communication running smoothly. So what's the real problem? The real problem is employees are busy. but they're personally stagnant. And what does that mean? That means that to do, but they don't see any personal future working for you. Now, 60% of the stagnation causing management actions are common across all organizations. That says that there is a deeper, more pervasive problem that we need to address across the board. What is the real underlying cause? The underlying employee management systems are obsolete. When we say management systems, it's 120 years old. Frederick Winslow Taylor in steel mills in Pennsylvania in 1985 instituted statistical management across an organization. It took fire. It went up and down all organizations across industries, and it is still in place today. And that is put people in the seats, keep them there, keep them doing exactly what they're doing. We'll tell them what to do, and we'll reap the benefits. It's not working, and it's not going to work in the future. We're here to address that. From the workforce perspective, Darren shared that I spent a year in the field and I did 130 seminars. We have lots of firsthand information and data. The top 10 reasons why employees feel stuck and stagnant. End of year appraisals is the number one, came up all the time. Poor problem solving, lower no people leadership across the organization, no job evolution. I've just been in the same place for 10 years. I feel stuck in place. Absolutely no mentoring. Actually, what mentoring there is reserved for a few. The employees see it and they actually are resentful that it's not applied to anyone else. Forgotten between manager changes. They make a relationship, they build a thank you, they build a good reputation with that manager. The manager leaves and the employee is just left by themselves to start all over again. Training is random. It's ineffective for future growth of that individual. There's no vision or path for talent evolution. And the reality is they do not believe that they have a personal future working for you. And looking at all of that, you can't blame them. So in 2020, working from home, what did employees learn? They learned that they have unlimited opportunities online. They can earn more income more quickly, work when they want to, have a sense of community. They have proactive shared learning anytime, any place. They get immediate support. There's no degrading end of year appraisals, no limitations. So our big question with you, and the one you should be asking yourself, is how are you going to compete with that? Our recommendation is that you instill vitality leadership across your organization. Make a commitment to transform the underlying obsolete management culture to vitality leadership. Now, when you say across an organization, a lot of people say, well, it's too big, it's too cumbersome, it's too complex, nobody's ever been able to do it. We're just saying, stop for a minute and take a deep breath, because you can. When we take a look at all of the elements and we net them down to the core values and the core action things that need to take place to change a situation. As Wayne Dwyer said, what you see changes. So one of the four things that we need to do is stimulate employee initiative. So they don't think stagnation, they actually have personal initiative in the organization. Make people leadership a required core skill across all managers and management. Institute 7 required core skills for vitality leadership certification on all levels in all departments. So everyone has a common goal, common language, and a common incentive moving forward for themselves and the organization. And yes, measure the problem, track and reward their progress. Now, one of the key things here that is also missing in organizations, you can say in your vision, this is where we're going, this is our strategic plan. The reality is When you do that, do you plan and communicate your future skill needs to your employees? Very, very few organizations, if any, actually take the time to get that clear and say, in 5 years, this is where we're going, 3, 2, 1, and then enlist the employee choice for their own future. There is an assumption across the board with the old management process that if employees came in being an accountant, they always want to be an accountant. They came in, they're sitting in the seat, they've been there for 10 years, just let them alone, they do a good job. The reality is they're stagnant, personally stagnant. And if you give them a choice and taking a look at the future skill needs, a choice for their own future, you may find that they left accounting way back, and it was probably an afterthought that they took on from their parents, and that the whole human potential that you have to deal with is sitting here waiting to blossom if you give it a chance. When you emphasize future skill training for your workforce while they are working for you, it gives you a platform to communicate your future skill needs. You can say, this is where we're going. This is what we're going to need in 3 years to get there. And guess what? If this is what we need in 1 year, if you choose where you want, what skill you want, we will help you get there. Enlist their power of choice to co-create their future with yours. Develop experience paths as stepping stones to attain their choice. Do that in progressive experiential learning. If you say, this is what you need to be able to effectively do that job in a year, these are the things you need to learn in the meantime. Let's plan that for you, and let's get that accomplished. And you instill this training of the 7 required core skills for vitality leadership, because you don't know where your greatest people leaders are or the power of people leadership in your non-management people. But you want to actually elevate that skill across everybody in your organization. Let's take a look at the 7 required core skills. And these may seem very common, and you're going to say, oh, yeah, I've heard these before. People, the reality is we have used the same terms, but we have redefined them. These are not just courses. These are not just ideas. These are actual management training tools that encourage managers to talk to employees, employees to talk to managers, because in many cases, managers don't even know what the people's names are. So in this case, what we're doing, we're overcoming that. Here are tools for managers and employees to utilize, and they get recognized for using the tools, they get recognized for the outcome of the tools, and they get recognized on their CV and credit toward vitality leadership. Let's take a look a little deeper. These skills actually create what I call an employee vitality generator, because as you integrate the desired behaviors for your organization across the skills that you want in your organization, you actually create continual skill evolution, integrated incentives. It's all self-reinforcing. It creates momentum, not just one course at a time somewhere offline. It creates a win-win for both the organization and the employees, and it applies to both office and remote workforces. So let's take a look at managers. You've trained managers to be people leaders. If you instill the 7 required core skills as tools that require communication and mentoring between managers and employees, and you track manager application of the tools as examples of their developing people leadership, you can recognize and reward managers for the use of the tools and for their people leadership. And then in this way, you actually set a bar. You set a new bar for manager attainment of vitality leadership certification in your organization as a requirement to be a manager. The net is to set a company-wide goal to actually become a vitality leadership organization. And let's take a look at the difference between business as usual and stagnation and vitality leadership. We've just gone through them, but let's look at them side by side. The first, stagnation ignores natural talents. Vitality leadership rewards natural talents. Stagnation, low people leadership. Vitality requires people leadership as a required core skills. Low problem solving. Problem solving is the number one required core skill across the organization. Delegation of boring work. Delegation has only been to transfer boring work from one individual to the other, and has generally been only for top people who have a budget or a staff. Now, delegation is a systematic training tool to evolve employee skills, effective training for skill evolution, continual progressive experience based on personal initiative. We will move as fast as you do. That's a wonderful thing to be able to say to your employees. One-time end-of-year appraisals equals stagnation. Now you have continual recognition and reward with experiential learning that zips right past end-of-year appraisals and lets them know that that door is open for them every day. The more they apply, the more they learn, the more we'll be with them, the more that momentum picks up, and you actually have vitality across your organization. And there's a big one, little or no choice in future jobs. Now, they have employee choice of target jobs and skills, and now they know they have a future while working for you.
Now I'm going to introduce James to take us through the methodology and the systematic approach. James is a professional engineer and a military commander. He has a grounding in economics, over 30 years executive consultancy experience, strategic planning thought leader, strategic IT advisor, and he's designed the Vitalize assessment tool, which is an innovative tool which we'll be launching very soon. We are in the process of signing up beta users. He's also the leader of the Vitality Leadership Consulting team. So James, over to you.
Thank you, Darren. Right, so we're going to talk about vitality leadership, which starts at the top with executive vision and custody. It's important to note that transformation cannot be driven from the middle. If you want to bring about long-term strategic change in an organization, it's got to come from the top down. It needs to be a company-wide goal, and anything less is just practice. Employees know it, and they don't care. Vitality leadership is measurable, it's sustainable, it's easy to understand, and it's trackable. It evolves workforce culture from the inside out. There's no big fanfare. It instills portable skills, self-reinforcing programs, and progressive experiential reward and opportunity. Let's talk a bit about our consulting process, which has been proven over many years. We gain clarity of the CEO vision and commitment. We facilitate dialogue and workshops with the leadership team to gain alignment. We facilitate an organization vitality assessment, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail in a minute. We then move on to strategic action planning and finally to implementation and training. We start off with something that we call a pulse measurement. It's a series of 1 hour one-on-one executive interviews with each member of the leadership team. We facilitate that with proven questions. We understand the essence of the business. We understand the essence of the vitality and stagnation issues, and we determine critical success factors for the engagement. This results in a concise next steps action report. We then go on to something that we call a strategic snapshot. It's a workshop with the leadership team, determine the critical concerns regarding workforce vitality, then identify 7 critical factors, the essence of the issues, determine their relative importance in percent, and facilitate collaborative, inclusive, consensus-building dialogue. We score performance and then highlight differences of opinion, align action, and create a framework for action. This is an example of the output that comes out of the snapshot. So you see 7 factors and different weights around the table. And sometimes these weights can give rise to major misunderstanding. So we see there 40% for this person who's the leader of the team, and these 2 people only think that that item is 15% of what's important. That can give rise to really serious problems. This is a way of diagnosing these differences and resolving them. Here's an example where we did this with a client where there was major misalignment between a new department head and people reporting to him who'd been there for 25 years. He was brought in because the department was not performing. These guys were completely out of alignment with him, dogmatically so, to the point where they were on the point of being fired. Our method exposed that disparity and created a framework for a constructive discussion, at the same time allowing the leader to override the opinions of the others in deciding on how to go forward. So measuring vitality is an imperative. Peter Drucker said, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. So the vitality assessment software, survey, and analysis tool was designed from the ground up. We sat down and said, how do we measure vitality? What is vitality? And we came up with this design and the tool. It evaluates vitality in organizations of any size, looking at both the corporate and the individual assessment. It focuses attention on situations and actions that impact loyalty, productivity, and belief in having a personal future with your company, and it avoids detrimental one-size-fits-all approaches. So accurate assessment allows accurate diagnosis of problem areas, remedial measures to directly address the cause of a problem, effective monitoring of corrective measures, tracking of progress to a high state of vitalization. It's a myth that you can't effectively measure soft issues. The reality is that effective analysis of any soft issue is possible with a defined set of measurements that enable the quantum of that issue to be measured and scaled. You saw an example of that a minute ago. The software is cloud-based. It's hosted with AWS, Amazon Web Services in the USA. It's accessible globally and it can be administered remotely anywhere in the world. It uses proprietary algorithms. We did a fair amount of head scratching to come up with what this does. Measures overall stagnation and vitality at the level of individual business units. Here you see the home screen and a couple of surveys waiting to be completed. It measures stagnation and vitality at the level of individual personnel. It models the organization and consolidates data up the organizational hierarchy. Graphical and tabular representation is provided. Identities of people are concealed. So here you see one of the reports, the organization elements. And what we're saying is for this particular department, the yellow is the ideal score and the green is how it's performing. So it's not doing too badly, but there's a little bit of a gap that needs to be closed. Here we're looking at the individual vitality. The red line is where the person views their ideal work condition, and the blue line is where they are at the moment. So we see a fair gap here. This person is somewhat stagnant and they're not totally comfortable in their work position. The software is flexible, it's powerful. It's a precursor to formulating a structured remediation plan. Various measures provide immediate insight and immediate action can be considered. And you can see here different components of the software can be made available to different users. Over to you, Darren.
Thanks, James. We're now going to introduce you to Dan Vogel, who will take us through his case study. Dan Vogel has got a graduate diploma of leadership from MIT, Columbia, and Dartmouth. TEDx speaker and trainer. He's held positions in elected public office and board of director seats. He's got an incredible background in resort hospitality. He's a professional sommelier, prolific writer in the wine and hospitality industries. As it relates to vitality and the program, Dan has direct application of these methods, experience in direct application across corporate teams and multinational, multi-ethnic, and multi-generational staff. In total, he's trained over 2,000 staff, managers, and directors with the Vitalize program and facilitates leadership courses at Vitalize Leadership Academy. So let me hand over to Dan.
There you go. Probably should unmute myself. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the program. And I'm different, as you see from the bio. What that really means, ladies and gentlemen, is that I'm a people person. And I deal with the not engineered, not carefully contrasted, not academically correct, real people, three-dimensional folks with personalities, with languages, with nationalities, with a tremendous amount of differences. And it's been my pleasure to both help develop the Vitality program, but truly to apply these concepts to the real people who exist within the lodges that I help manage. On the screen, you'll see actually one of our hotels. This is in western Montana. This is a very large hotel, and the chaos and interest and the tumult of hospitality in there is very, very strong. As we developed the Vitality program, I was able to apply this entire process to all of my working groups. So here's the scale. So this isn't tried on like 7 people and then we think, oh, this is a good idea. I have essentially 4 lodges. We see over 1 million guests a year. I have 900 employees, 7 countries, 14 languages. You can imagine what kind of complexion this is. Add to that when we open up, as we're going to begin tomorrow, as we open up these particular lodges, I have 5 days to take a team that you see on the screen here, 7 countries, 14 languages, in large scales. I have 5 days to craft professional teams out of these people. And you have got to do it right. And you have no extra time to do anything that isn't completely effective. So out of this particular project came the tale of 3 seasons. In the application of Vitalize to the actual working groups that I directly oversee and interact with, this is the story, and this is a true case history of everything that we've done here. In 2017, we had trouble, and real trouble. In any industry, you have years that you just go, gosh, this is just never going to end. 2020 might be something like that for you. We had unpredictability, we had poor performance, poor timing. Our leaders were not accountable. And it really manifests itself in a frighteningly high termination rate. Out of the 300 people in one of my lodges, I think we terminated almost 100 over the course of the 100-day season, essentially 1 a day. And our retention fell down to 5%. So this is not a good working situation. And to this really rotten, because I have to tell you that the people part of this hurts. This is anxiety, this is emotional, this is anger, and this is dangerous. This kind of environment working here is not indicative of any sort of either returning employees or performance in any way, shape, or form. Everybody in 2017 was every man for himself. So we'll go to the next one there. In 2017, at the end of the season, we decided, all right, we're not going to do this again. And we applied then in our design and training of the particular lodge staffs, we applied directly the Vitalize Your Workforce concepts. We used the measurement tools that James has described. We used the approaches that Margot has described, and we applied them to the real life, sticky, sweaty, unruly people that we all work with in our really everyday lives. In 2018, at the end of that season, we went from 85 terminations in the one lodge to a total of 4 terminations across our entire organization. We had some people starting to shine as well. They were growing toward a set of goals, and they're taking everybody with them. The examples that we encouraged all of our staff to have and the leadership that we encouraged all of our staff to grow had direct, tangible, measurable results. And it's important to note that 2018 and 2017 had the very same physical environment. In my world, forest fires completely changed the complexion of the performance. Forest fires, smoke, those kind of damages, outright evacuations, any one of those things. And 2017 and 2018 were identical as far as fires, evacuations, all the tumult. And so 2018 started to rank as a real important success of the application of the Vitalize program because, just in those numbers, 85 to 4 is worth a lot of money and a lot of anxiety. So we'll go to 2019. After 2018, we went, okay, we're not pussyfooting around on this. Everything about the Vitalize program is going to be applied in spades to everything that we do. And so our training and development program came directly out of the Vitalize program. We added some corporate aspects to it, and we added some individual capacities. As we did that, we did this consistently across all of our lodges. And the immediately within 2019, the difference was remarkable. So in the early part of the season, all of the teams were firing all cylinders. Weather was able to be on our side. We didn't have any fires. We didn't have any sort of events like that. And so we were able to execute 2019 with a really unencumbered environment here. Everything was looking well for us. But as we applied this, the deeper and the higher performance we were able to see out of our staff. So we'll go on to the aftermath here. In 2019, at the end of the season, the actual results, and this is what's important for everybody on the call to really see, is that the results of these people's performance are remarkable. The working teams in the park returned a 90% retention rate. Remember, we've grown from 20, which is a national average, to a 90% retention rate. 90% of my employees said, I'm coming back, and they did. The business model and the financial projections that we are given corporately, as in any corporation, have a complete divorce from the actual people. We hit every single one of those particular objectives, and we did it with a staff who was delighted to do the job that they were doing. They were happy to be working with us. They were rewarded, they were recognized, they were aligned, and all of these things are what come out of the Vitalize program. Interestingly enough, that the other divisions within the lodge system that we're in experienced their normal set of high terminations and hidden costs. And so this wasn't that just magically by a wave of magic wand, this happened in all lodges. This happened in our teams because the architecture and the design of Vitalize Your Workforce as applied to the real people in our working groups. So that's January 2020. Now, everybody look back at where January 2020 was. When I actually wrote that, the world that we currently live in did not exist. So right after January 2020, our world and your world completely changed. So as we looked into the actual operation of 2020, most of the staff that I had claimed the 90% retention rate actually was no longer employed. All of our operations received an enormous cut. Many of our lodges weren't open. Our entire staff was laid off. And so you would expect that in that situation, that the entire organization would just fall flat. And it didn't. The real lesson from the rest of 2020 is that when you instill these particular working characteristics in your teams, when you vitalize your workforce this way, it has a life of its own. And now, currently, as I'm sitting in my office here, I will begin my leadership training for this year, tomorrow. Almost another 90% retention rate is what we've experienced. And we cannot keep people away from our particular working environments. So the actual aftermath shows that once you have this vitalized environment within your working teams, it will survive. It will survive without constant care and feeding. And once it has this kind of set of results, it creates belief. And once you have that belief, and that was mentioned, I believe, by Dr. Robertson, once we have the belief that our people are treated with dignity and respect, that they have challenge, that they will be mentored, that they have leadership opportunities, that we encourage them to be the very best at who they are, they will come back. And they will come back not only in good circumstances, they will come back when you need them the most. And that's right now. If we fast forward to today now, I have the unfortunate spot of having the instant replay of the reductions of our working groups. However, still, with all of my lodges, fully 90% of the people who are working with us have come back again and again. And they've come back with good faith. They have come back with their very best skills. They have come back to learn more, and they've come back to contribute as excellent employees and managers and leaders within our organization. And even though that's actually 5 seasons, those 5 seasons have shown that the particular Vitalize program is durable, it is applicable, it works. And once you do the actual commitment to creating the architecture of using these particular things, it will be a long time self-sustaining program that means you will be profitable. Thank you for listening.
So we have been through, shared a lot with you about this program in a very, very short period of time. As you can see, it's comprehensive. And I want to go back to the question that people always ask: how are we different? We're different because we do redefine the problem. We redefine the problem, and yes, we help you see the problem differently so the problem itself can change and does change. We help you instill vitality leadership across your organization. We work with your employees to change their stagnation to personal initiative and momentum. We change stagnant management to people leadership. We help you change non-measurement of soft issues and skills to progressive measurement to show for decision making, for reward, for recognition. And one of the things we really do is we help you establish proven organization-wide goals for vitality leadership. So it's not just taking a look at an employee in a department. We're talking about a unified view and a unified momentum to lift and raise that your organization as a vitality leadership organization, which differentiates you in the marketplace. So as we take a look at the speed, yes, we're streamlined, we're efficient. We do take the 80-20 approach. We do integrate and demonstrate people leadership from the top down. As James said, we cannot make these changes from the middle. It has to be from your leadership and your vision, and then we provide you the support to be able to do that. Apply solutions and address the causes. We evolve the whole workforce, enable progress tracking and ROI, and certainly it's consistent, sustainable, replicable across organizations. Step into it, take action now. We can do this with you. We certainly provide the range of services. Wherever you are, start. Talk with us, let us know what your issues are, what your concerns are. We can certainly do workshops, we can do retreats, we can do board reviews. But the biggest thing is just to get into action and start. Let's really explore how vitality leadership attracts employees, certainly attracts them, improves retention, KPIs, and ROI. The idea of resignation, I think having people knock on your door saying, I want to come work for you guys because you guys are different, is the key. And so thank you very much. Looking forward to meeting you.
Thanks, Margot. So I've got a few questions that have come up in the chat, and also just it's from previous webinars, just because there's not a huge amount of people in here today, but I think these are pertinent questions to bring up. So let's see. I've got one here. This all sounds very useful, and I'd love to introduce vitality principles to my team. However, you mentioned that this only works from the top down. My company's leadership are very difficult to pin down. Is it possible to implement the core vitality principles with my immediate team? Margot, for you?
Absolutely. When we say top down, the reason why we say top down is because when you're going to change your employee management culture, the underlying culture that is obsolete, it requires executive custody and accountability and a commitment. Once you make that commitment, what we do then is we then help you implement it across the organization. And we have programs to help do that. And so, yes, absolutely. The one, you can implement it in a department, an organization, subsidiary. The biggest thing, again, is just to get started.
What I've done is I've put the address details of the chat so we can have a little bit of a face-to-face kind of experience when I go through the next questions. James, I've got one here for you. This sounds great. How much does it cost?
Always the cost question. So what we're doing at the moment, we've got a bit of a promotion going in association with this webinar. And what we're offering is a one-day pulse measurement. You remember I described the pulse measurement in one-on-one interviews with each member of your leadership team. We'll come in for a day, Margot and myself, and we'll take you through the pulse measurement. At the end of the day, we'll give you a short written report, which will report on our findings. And based on those findings, we will give you an indication. Within a day or two after that, we will give you a price proposal for what we think is appropriate. And that will be designed and crafted in collaboration with you. We firmly believe in co-creating our engagement with the client. What we're doing at the moment with that pulse measurement is, as I say, as a promotion, is we're offering that for $1,000 for the one-day intervention. And then we will engage with you and discuss the pricing for the remainder of the engagement after that.
So what would you expect to find in a one-day engagement, James?
In my experience, Darren, we will have a pretty solid idea of, first and foremost, what I call the essence of the business, why the business or the organization exists, how it thrives, what it does to differentiate itself. We will also have a clear understanding of the concerns of the leadership team. And from those 5 or 6 or 7 interviews, we will have a pretty good sense of what's going on in the organization. And we will relate that back to our experience and give you a diagnosis of what we think the key issues are in the organization. And then we will also understand what the critical success factors are of the leadership team for the engagement. That, as I say, will be given in a short written report. And then we can put together a proposal which would involve running the assessment software, et cetera, et cetera.
One of the things that I found very interesting, just before I go to the next question, is when you did the pulse measurement and the strat gap and the strat snap with me personally, I found it the difference in alignment, and I think that might be something you could speak on, just how business leaders might be misaligned.
Absolutely. So we'll pick that up to a point in the interviews with the pulse measurement. Generally, our recommendation would be the next step would be the strategic snapshot, which I touched on, and I showed you a couple of screens from that. And that will give you a clear indication of what the level of alignment or misalignment is around the table. Now, the one thing is that the human resources people, the marketing people, the finance people, the manufacturing people will all see the situation differently, and the issues may be different within their different departments. So it's understandable that you get divergent views. At the same time, when your solution is to get the organization to a high level of vitality and a high level of effectiveness, it's not necessarily helpful that everybody's looking at it differently. So you need to agree some parameters that everybody understands and commits to. And so the method allows us to measure that, and it allows us outside of the workshop setting to engage with various parties to make sure that everybody's aligned.
Okay. How does this differ from typical culture transformation initiatives? Margot, for you?
A lot of culture transformation initiatives try to, I call them water spider initiatives. They try to make the music different, the food different, the parking spaces different, the atmosphere different. And the reality is those are all surface issues. What we do is we get in and we understand what the causes are to stagnation anywhere in your organization, and we help map them for you so you can see the interrelationships of those things. So you understand why working in just one department, experimenting and seeing if it works, and then maybe applying it to the rest of the organization, why that never works, and why one size fits all approaches never work. And so what we want to do, we want to come in and help you understand and implement something that is sustainable. It's customizable to a department, to your subsidiaries, to your industries. We want you to understand that you can put a system in place that actually, as it begins to get going, as Dan Vogel said, in year one, it was just taking hold. By he got to year three, there was clear momentum and an established process that people actually came back for. They came back and knocked on his door. That's what we would like to do with you. And that's why we're different.
If I can just chip in on that one, I think another area of where we're different is that our goal is to equip and empower and to a point educate the leadership and personnel of the organization. So we're not there looking to make a profit by putting 10 MBA graduates on site for 6 months to go around and follow a whole lot of recipes. We're there to go there and to equip your leadership team, your management at all levels, and your staff with a different way of doing things.
Okay. Do you provide consultancy for micro businesses? We only have 3 people in our company. James.
Yes, we certainly could help a business with 3 people, but I would be surprised if 3 people had many of these problems. But certainly, the methods are completely applicable. If there's a couple of staff and there's a couple of issues there, we can certainly resolve those.
And I would like to add to that. One of the things what people I talk to often are startups. Startups can have 2 or 3 people, and smaller companies can start to grow fast. Unless you understand the principles and practices of establishing vitality leadership, you may be instilling something that you then you regret, 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, because you're going to be behind the 8 ball. We help you understand what that is, and we can help you instill the mindset and what's in place in your organization so you can really grow effectively.
Margot, one last question here. Do these principles work across all sectors?
Yes, they do. They're designed, the book itself and all of the pieces are designed to be customizable across any industry. It doesn't make any sense to just stay within the medical industry. The principles of what creates stagnation and points of action, archaic employee management points that create the stagnation are common across almost all industries. So we've addressed it from that point of view and gladly work with anybody.
I think let's just go around the room.
Yep.
Robin, any questions or thoughts?
This resonates with me in our practice. We do it at a different format, though. I'm very much in line with you, Darren, because ours is a consultancy, and we work with 7 to 10 figure businesses, but they're not my problem. The problem is the institution that has made so many mistakes in trying to take us on. I'd love it if I could somehow get their attention to this offer you're making, because I think it would do all the good in the world.
Let's move around the room. Devin, any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I totally feel Robin's pain now. I've been talking and working with Margot for a while with this, because when we first met, these thoughts, these concepts, the ideas were directly in line with what I was trying to tackle within the corporate world. I spent 20 years working in the corporate world, and the lack of leadership at all levels of the company was a huge problem. Mm-hmm. Management not qualified for the positions they have, the teams they have, was a big problem. Employees frustrated because their own boss didn't know the work they were doing. Mm-hmm. Things like this slipped through the cracks, and it was common everywhere. And I go, there's got to be a way to fix this. It's a systemic issue. It's not going into one company and turning that around. This has to be changed across the board. So I've spent time, as a consultant, trying to figure out how to work these issues too. And when I met Margot and we started talking, I was like, we're on the same path. and she's our, excuse me. She's already taken some of the steps that I'm going to need to do. She's, gone out there and already done the speaking engagements to interview people and get the feedback. Because I know the answers, but people need to give it so you have numbers to say this is real. I'm not just saying this, but this is what everybody out there is saying. So I love that you guys already have all of that numbers input there. Dan's part of the presentation, I think, is very useful and very positive towards this, because what he's implemented in his industry, it proves the case. I think it's huge. So I really like Dan's part of this webinar, and I like how he's been able to show what happens when we just relook at how we treat our employees. So coming from that point of view, I think it is the key to tackling a systemic issue that's out there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Devin. Tim.
Yes. Good morning, all. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. I'm also a consultant interested in making companies better, small businesses, and a lot of the topics that were discussed here today resonated with me. I know, looking at the culture of people, I mean, it really boils down to some of the basics. It's people feeling appreciated, and in order to keep them, you got to satisfy some of their needs. And if we're in a changing world, as everybody knows, and companies have to adjust in order to be able to retain and to hire and retain. Employees are becoming more and more picky. So definitely all on the right track. Excellent work, and I'm all in support of that. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Tim,
Cool.
if you can put your contact information right in here, we can be in touch. And so I'd like to have it be a fluid conversation, so that we can see how we can help you. So
Absolutely.
Well, it brings us to the end of our session 1 of the day. Thank you. Thanks
Is
everyone.
the 3 o'clock the same link and passcode?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
talk to you soon, Devin.
We'll see you then. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good
Cheers.
one.
Bye.
It's going to take 1 hour, including Q&A. Please, can you make sure your mics are muted? If you have to ask any questions, you can do so through the chat. The session is being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded or visible, you can turn your camera off. Within 48 hours, we will release a YouTube link which has the recording on it. And right after this, you'll get an email with a PDF copy of the presentation. So no need to worry about doing screenshots or anything like that. It'll all come afterwards. If you have any questions or you want to email us afterwards, there's the email you can use, or you could use Margot's direct email, which I'm sure Margot will be happy to give right after this. So without any ado, let me introduce you to Margot Murphy. Margot's got a background in economics and international business, has worked in Fortune 100 companies, including Johnson & Johnson, AT&T, Lucent Technologies, and others. Margot has worked in global operations and resource planning and provisioning in 60 countries and 11 industries. A radio host, speaker, podcast contributor, Business Week contributor, and author. I want to hone in on this author bit because it's not often you get to speak to someone who's put in primary research. You get a lot of people who do the internet research. They create a story and then they blabber out their version of it. This is we talk about primary research, a full year of research, 130 seminars and 8 topics, 2,400 participants across 17 states. So we're looking at we're going to hear from someone who is an expert in this industry. So over to you, Margot.
Thank you, Darren. Hi, everyone. Glad you're here today. And yes, we are going to go through this agenda. Why are we here? Leadership challenges, required core skills. We would like to share about our process in working with you, our expertise in measuring vitality, and certainly sharing with you a boots on the ground case study that proves in the principles and practices of Vitalize Your Workforce. And then we'll wrap up. But before I get started, one of the things that people always ask me is, why did you get into this? Why did you start this now? The reality is, I am really passionate about human potential. We are gifted, each one of us is gifted with an enormous amount of human potential that we think we're holding ourselves back. The reality is that organizations actually cause managed stagnation. And in organizations, you have about 153 million people working for organizations, and that's painful. And then when you think, well, if the Gallup statistic is 85% of employees aren't engaged, that means there is stagnation in every department, on every level, in every organization, everywhere. And that's really, really, really sad. So who are we? We're a team of proven executives. We have hands-on experience in over 20 industries. And we really do understand your need for a proactive, loyal workforce. We understand your frustrations with a high past investment to try and solve employee lack of engagement to absolutely no avail. Nothing has changed. And we know you need answers now. The situation has become urgent. So as we get into this, the thoughts for today are, as Wayne Dwyer said, when you think about a problem differently, the problem changes. And Ben Franklin said, if there's one way of doing things, there's always a better way. So as we move forward, we are going to talk about a common problem differently and change the outcome. So why are we different from other consulting companies and other people who are addressing this? Because we do redefine the problem. And we focus on the causes, not the symptom. Employee lack of engagement is simply a symptom, and you can't solve it. So where do we work from? We work from a CEO perspective, because you cannot solve employee stagnation from the middle. We offer you a proven system to transform obsolete employee management methods that actually cause stagnation to vitality. And and you will hear, we actually provide a proven 3-year case study that exemplifies the critical results and emphasizes why you need to take action now. So when we talk about pain, we actually feel your pain. Lack of engagement, I said, has never been solved. And now, after shutdown, we all have difficulty in encouraging workers to return to work. And then we struggle to retain them. And then the ones that stayed anywhere are resigning. So the negative KPIs are increasing and the cost of employee replacement is exponential. So how are you going to keep a consistent production, consistent wisdom, consistent teamwork throughout your organization when it's actually flying apart? The employees, what's the real problem? The real underlying problem is employees are busy, busier than ever, more to do in less time, but they are personally stagnant. And let's take a look at what that means. 60% of stagnation causing management actions are actually common to all organizations. And so the underlying cause is that there's an employee management system underlying everything and every company that is over 120 years old. It was actually instituted in 1895 in the steel mills over here in Pennsylvania by Frederick Winslow Taylor, who was an expert statistician. And he instituted Don't be creative. Do everything the same. Do what we tell you. Sit in your seats. As long as you sit in your seats, you'll get paid and we win. So that is what has been in place, and it doesn't work anymore. So what needs to change? Based on all my conversations with 2,400 people over a year's time, the workforce perspective is end-of-year appraisals are deadly. There's poor problem solving. Actually, what they say is there is actually low or no problem solving at the local level, local meaning on the job level. There is at large strategic planning levels, but not where people are working. There's low or no people leadership. Often managers don't even know their employees' names. There's no job evolution. They're stuck in place. You feel the weight here. Low or no mentoring. The mentoring, they actually see people being mentored, but it's reserved for a few, and that generates resentment. Employees are actually forgotten between manager changes. So they work and they develop a relationship between managers, and they develop a good interface. The manager changes and nobody lifts up and brings the employee forward. So training is random, which means it's very ineffective for future growth. And there's no vision or path for talent evolution. So with all of that as a baseline to see what the problems are, your employees don't believe that they have a personal future while working for you. So in 2020, what changed? What did employees learn while working from home? They learned that there were unlimited opportunities online. They could earn more income more quickly, work when they want to. They had proactive shared learning. They had immediate support, no degrading end-of-year appraisals, and no limitations. So the real question here is, how are you going to compete with that? Well, we recommend that you instill vitality leadership across your organization. Transform the underlying obsolete management culture to vitality leadership. Decide and commit to transforming to vitality leadership. A lot of people say, how could you possibly do that? How big is the organization? It's complex, nothing ever works. It's all sort of airy-fairy, can't get anything tangible. Okay. Well, what we're here to say is, yes, you can make it tangible. And as Benjamin Franklin said, and Albert Einstein said, find your key elements and then simplify. That's exactly what we've done here. We need to stimulate employee initiative, so they move from stagnant thinking to personal initiative. You have to make people leadership a required core skill across managers, because today it's not even required to be a manager. Institute 7 required core skills, so there's a common language, a common goal, common teamwork that they can actually port with them from job to job to job within the organization, and measure the problem and track and reward progress. Yes, you can measure vitality, but one of the key things you need to focus on is you have to plan and communicate your future skill needs. Oftentimes people say, well, I have a vision. Have you updated your vision? Have you communicated your vision? Well, that's fine. The vision is often for the investors or the senior leadership, but it doesn't go down through the organization. So you may say, we're going to become a leader in this particular industry, but it doesn't relate to your employees. So if you can identify those future skill needs and bring it back so you're to the employee, so you can enlist their choice of what future they want to have for you based on where the company is going, then you really start to ground their personal initiative. So I want to just go through taking a look at what we address in vitality leadership. We're taking, for employees, emphasize the future skill training for your workforce. while they're working for you. They don't have to go outside. They don't go for another degree. They don't have to go someplace else. What you want to do is communicate your future skill needs 1, 3, and 5 years out. Why 1, 3, and 5? 5 gives them a sense of future. 3 begins to put in the fact that this is real and it's coming and it's here immediate. And 1 provides the immediacy of starting now. Make the decision now and we will help you get there. Enlist their power of choice. Co-create their future with them and yours. Develop experience paths as stepping stones to attain their choice. And we have laid out how you can do that, and systematically with measurement and certifications. And instill training of 7 required core skills for vitality leadership. The 7 required core skills, what are they? People leadership, integrated incentives, mentoring, vitality, problem solving, dynamic delegation, meaningful recognition and reward, and appreciation files. Now, a lot of these may seem very common, and they may say, well, those have been around a long time. Aha, just wait. The reason we didn't introduce any new terms, what we did is redefine what these words mean. We have actually turned these words into management tools. They're actual tools to get the manager to talk with employees, the employees to talk with managers in the process of evolving the organization to a vitality leadership organization and progressing the employee from stagnant to the future of their choice in your company. Let's take a look. These, if you take a look, these are the 7 required core skills, along with progressive opportunity as the reward. I call it the employee vitality generator. It actually generates, it provides continual skill evolution, integrated incentives. It's self-reinforcing. It provides momentum across your organization. Every employee has momentum. The organization has momentum, and the ability to transfer and utilize your employees more effectively across the organization raises exponentially. And this is a true win-win for organizations and employees, and it certainly applies to both in-office and remote. So next, let's take a look at managers. You need to train managers to be people leaders. They need to learn and instill the 7 required core skills inside of themselves. But at this point, they are tools requiring communication and mentoring between managers and employees. As tools, you can now track the manager's application of these tools for people leadership. Those who aren't applying it don't have the advantages that those who are. Those who are applying it become actual people leaders and rise up in the organization. You recognize and reward manager use of the tools for people leadership. And really, this is the place to set a new bar for manager attainment of vitality leadership certification. Easy to do, trackable, and meaningful. Then let's take a look at the organization level. Set a company-wide goal to become a vitality leadership organization. What that does is that encourages the entire organization, not just one at a time, not just one department, not just one level, the entire organization become a leadership organization to be recognized as a high marketing value advantage in the marketplace. So in a bit of a summary, let's take a look at a view of future perfect should you decide to take action and commit to vitality leadership. Stagnation in the stagnation business as usual, it ignores natural talents. Vitality leadership rewards natural talents. Low people leadership for managers. People leadership becomes a required core skill and its dynamic implication. There's low problem solving across the organization, and problem solving when done correctly with a a core process that can be customized to the functions becomes a number one required core skill. Delegation of boring work has generally been only for the top. I want to get this off my desk, I'll hand it to somebody. Now vitality leadership, delegation becomes a systematic training tool for evolution of employee skills and experience. Ineffective training for skill evolution is stagnation. Vitality leadership is continual progressive experience based on personal initiative of the employee. That's a win-win for both the employee and you. One-time end of the year appraisals, as I said, was deadly. Now you have continual recognition, reward, progressive experiential learning that just bypasses end of year appraisals and raises people based on their initiative, their effort, their proof of applying the principles. And in a very short time, what you get is you get momentum as you oil the wheel going forward. The first year may be, oh, this is all new. Second year is, this is little new. And the third year, oh, this is easy, let's go. So we're talking about changing that, and little or no choice in future jobs. Now you are actually creating employee choice for the target job or skills, and they now see that they have a future, a personal future working for you. So let's move along. We are now going to introduce Dr. James Robertson to talk about our process measuring vitality and measuring vitality. How do we do that, and what's our strength in this area?
Darren, you're muted.
Here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
There we go. Dr. Robertson is a professional engineer with a background in the military. He's a military commander. He has a grounding in economics, over 30 years of executive consultancy experience, strategic planning thought leader, and a strategic IT advisor. Dr. Robertson designed the Vitalize measurement tool, which we call the Vitalize assessment tool. He's going to go through that in a second, and I think you're going to be blown away. He's also the leader of the Vitality Leadership Consulting team. So over to you, James.
Thank you, Darren. So vitality leadership, what is it? It starts at the top with executive vision and executive custody. It's important to realize that corporate-wide transformation cannot be driven from the middle. Yes, you can institute change in a particular department, but if you want to change the entire organization, it's got to start at the top. Vitality leadership must be a company-wide goal. Anything less is just practiced, and employees know it and they won't care. Vitality leadership is measurable, it's sustainable, it's easy to understand, and it's trackable. And we'll show you a bit more about that in a minute. It evolves workforce culture from the inside out with no big fanfare. It instills portable skills, self-reinforcing programs, progressive experiential reward and opportunity. One of the things that we stress is this is about equipping and empowering the people in the organization. This is not about bringing in an army of MBA, junior MBA consultants to run around the business and do things. This is about a small team coming in and teaching the business new skills. Let's talk a little bit about our consulting process. We start by gaining clarity of the CEO vision and commitment. We facilitate dialogue and workshops with the leadership team to gain alignment. We facilitate an organization-wide vitality assessment. We do strategic action planning and co-create a plan with the client, and then we implement and train. The first thing we do is what we call a pulse measurement, which is a series of 1 hour, one-on-one executive interviews with each member of the leadership team. It can cascade down to the next layer of management if required. We facilitate with proven questions. We seek to understand the essence of the business or the organization and why it exists and how it thrives. so that we can align ourselves with the essence of the business. We understand the essence of the vitality and stagnation issues that are facing the organization, and we determine the critical success factors for the engagement. At the end of that, we deliver a concise next steps action report, and subsequent to that, we will give you a price proposal for a plan which we co-create with you to meet your exact requirements. The next step is generally what we call a strategic snapshot. We workshop with the leadership team. We determine their critical concerns regarding workforce vitality. We identify the 7 critical factors, the essence of the issues. We determine relative importance. We facilitate collaborative, inclusive consensus building. We score performance. We highlight differences of opinion. We align action, and we create a framework for action. It's a proven process. We've been using it for over 20 years. Here's an example of one of the outputs. So we have our 7 factors. We've got 4 executive members here, and these are their weights, and what you see there, big differences of opinion of the relative importance of communication. Sometimes those differences of opinion are absolutely valid. Different departments see the business differently, and sometimes they can point to dogmatic positions that need to be relaxed, and we can do that. Here's a case study. The sponsor was new head of department. This chap here had been there for 25 years, thought he knew exactly how things were, despite the fact that he'd been passed over for promotion because the executives were dissatisfied with what he was doing. Major differences of opinion there and there and there, you can see. Head-on clash to the point where LH was on the point of being fired. This process identified the differences, allowed the executive to override the general opinion and put in place his own weights, and take it offline and have an intervention with the human resources department, which defused the situation, and they worked together collaboratively and became good friends over the next 5 years. Measuring vitality is an absolute imperative. Peter Drucker says, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. The assessment software survey and analysis tool was designed from the ground up. Margot gave me a call and said, James, I've got a problem. I need some software to measure vitality and stagnation. And we got together and we designed this and we built it from the ground up. It evaluates vitality in organizations of any size, looking at both corporate and individual assessment. Darren, do you want to mute? Your keyboard is making quite a noise.
That's not my keyboard, James, but I will mute.
Oh, somebody's keyboard is making quite a noise. It focuses attention on situations and actions that impact loyalty, productivity, and belief in having a personal future with you, and it avoids detrimental one-size-fits-all approaches. So, accurate assessments allow accurate diagnosis of problem areas, remedial measures to directly address the cause of a problem, effective monitoring of corrective measures, and tracking of progress to a high state of vitalization. It's a myth that you can't effectively measure soft issues. The reality is that effective analysis of any soft issues is possible with a defined set of measurements that enables the quantum of that issue to be measured and scaled. So here is the home screen of the software. What we see here, a particular individual, they've been assigned these 2 assessments. It's cloud-based, Amazon Web Services in the US. It's accessible globally and can be administered remotely. The algorithms are proprietary. It measures overall stagnation and vitality at the level of individual business units, so we can model the whole business. It measures stagnation and vitality at the level of individual personnel. It consolidates up the organizational hierarchy. It's graphical and tabular, and identities are concealed. So the average person, the average user, does not see the names of the respondents, but we have an override that allows the senior consultant to see the names if we identify problem areas which require intervention. This is rating the organizational elements, and what we see there is that overall the goal is a fairly high level of performance. The actual performance is a little bit down on that, but not too bad. A little bit of stagnation, not serious. This is looking at the individuals, and what we see here is this individual ascribes to themselves a pretty high level of vitality in their ideal job, but in their current job, they are showing a moderate level of stagnation. The arrows there give you some idea of the, the arrows there give you some idea of the magnitude of the tension that person is under in their job situation. So this immediately allows us to get a feel for the health of the organization. These numbers roll up so you can get a picture like this for the whole department, for a whole division, or for the whole company. So in conclusion about the assessment, it's a flexible and powerful tool. It's a precursor to formulating a structured remediation plan. Various measurements provide immediate insight, and immediate action can be considered. What you can see here is there are 5 levels of user. We can give users access to different components of the software. The majority would only get to do the assessments, and then the consultants and certain in-house senior people would have access to more of the software. So that's my story. Darren, back to you.
There we go, unmute. Thanks, James. I'm going to go through quickly where we're at, just to give you a picture of where we are going. So we've gone through who we are, why we're here, the leadership challenges. Margo articulated the 7 required core skills. James has gone through our process and measuring vitality. Next up is the 3-year case study. And it's going to be brought to you by Dan Vogel. So let me just introduce Dan. Dan has a graduate diploma of leadership, MIT, Columbia, and Dartmouth. He's a TEDx speaker and trainer. He's held positions in elected office and board director seats. He's got expert experience in resort hospitality, and he's a professional sommelier, prolific writer for the wine and hospitality industries. He's got direct application of the vitalized methods and material across corporate teams of multinational, multi-ethnic, and multi-generational staff. In total, he has trained over 2,000 staff, managers, and directors with the Vitalize program. He facilitates leadership courses at Vitalize Leadership Academy in Montana. So let me hand over to you, Dan. Should hand over to Dan.
There you go. Probably should unmute myself. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the program. And I'm different, as you see from the bio. What that really means, ladies and gentlemen, is that I'm a people person. And I deal with the not engineered, not carefully contrasted, not academically correct, real people, 3-dimensional folks with personalities, with languages, with nationalities, with a tremendous amount of differences. And it's been my pleasure to both help develop the Vitality program, but truly to apply these concepts to the real people who exist within the lodges that I help manage. On the screen, you'll see actually one of our hotels. This is in northwestern Montana. This is a very large hotel, and the chaos and interest and the tumult of hospitality in there is very, very strong. As we developed the Vitality program, I was able to apply this entire process to all of my working groups. So here's a scale. So this isn't tried on like 7 people, and then we think, oh, this is a good idea. I have essentially 4 lodges. We see over 1 million guests a year. I have 900 employees, 7 countries, 14 languages. You can imagine what kind of complexion this is. So out of this particular project came the tale of 3 seasons. In the application of Vitalize to the actual working groups that I directly oversee and interact with, this is the story, and this is a true case history of everything that we've done here. In 2017, we had trouble, and real trouble. In any industry, you have years that you just go, gosh, this is just never going to end. 2020 might be something like that for you. We had unpredictability, we had poor performance, poor timing. Our leaders were not accountable. And it really manifests itself in a frighteningly high termination rate. Out of the 300 people in one of my lodges, I think we terminated almost 100 over the course of the 100-day season, essentially one a day. And our retention fell down to 5%. So this is not a good working situation. And to this really rotten, because I have to tell you that the people part of this hurts. This is anxiety, this is emotional, this is anger, and this is dangerous. This kind of environment working here is not indicative of any sort of either returning employees or performance in any way, shape, or form. Everybody in 2017 was every man for himself. So we'll go to the next one there. In 2017, at the end of the season, we decided, all right, we're not going to do this again. And we applied then in our design and training of the particular lodge staffs, we applied directly the Vitalize Your Workforce concepts. We used the measurement tools that James has described. We used the approaches that Margot has described, and we applied them to the real life, sticky, sweaty, unruly people that we all work with in our really everyday lives. In 2018, at the end of that season, we went from 85 terminations in the one lodge to a total of 4 terminations across our entire organization. We had some people starting to shine as well. They were growing toward a set of goals, and they're taking everybody with them. The examples that we encouraged all of our staff to have and the leadership that we encouraged all of our staff to grow had direct, tangible, measurable results. And it's important to note that 2018 and 2017 had the very same physical environment. In my world, forest fires completely changed the complexion of the performance. Forest fires, smoke, those kind of damages, outright evacuations, any one of those things. And 2017 and 2018 were identical as far as fires, evacuations, all the tumult. And so 2018 started to rank as a real important success of the application of the Vitalize program because, just in those numbers, 85 to 4 is worth a lot of money and a lot of anxiety. So we'll go to 2019. After 2018, we went, okay, we're not pussyfooting around on this. Everything about the Vitalize program is going to be applied in spades to everything that we do. And so our training and development program came directly out of the Vitalize program. We added some corporate aspects to it, and we added some individual capacities. As we did that, we did this consistently across all of our lodges, and the immediately within 2019, the difference was remarkable. So in the early part of the season, all of the teams were firing all cylinders. Weather was able to be on our side. We didn't have any fires. We didn't have any sort of events like that. And so we were able to execute 2019 with a really unencumbered environment here. Everything was looking well for us. But as we applied this, the deeper and the higher performance, we were able to see out of our staff. So we'll go on to the aftermath here. In 2019, at the end of the season, the actual results, and this is what's important for everybody on the call to really see, is that the results of these people's performance are remarkable. The working teams in the park returned a 90% retention rate. Remember, we've grown from 20, which is a national average, to a 90% retention rate. 90% of my employees said, I'm coming back, and they did. The business model and the financial projections that we are given corporately, as in any corporation, have a complete divorce from the actual people. We hit every single one of those particular objectives, and we did it with a staff who was delighted to do the job that they were doing. They were happy to be working with us. They were rewarded, they were recognized, they were aligned, and all of these things are what come out of the Vitalize program. Interestingly enough, that the other divisions within the lodge system that we're in experienced their normal set of high terminations and hidden costs. And so this wasn't that just magically by a wave of magic wand, this happened in all lodges. This happened in our teams because the architecture and the design of Vitalize Your Workforce as applied to the real people in our working groups. So that's January 2020. Now, everybody look back at where January 2020 was. When I actually wrote that, the world that we currently live in did not exist. So right after January 2020, our world and your world completely changed. So as we looked into the actual operation of 2020, most of the staff that I had claimed the high 90% retention rate actually was no longer employed. All of our operations received an enormous cut. Many of our lodges weren't open. Our entire staff was laid off. And so you would expect that in that situation that the entire organization would just fall flat. And it didn't. The real lesson from the rest of 2020 is that when you instill these particular working characteristics in your teams, when you vitalize your workforce this way, it has a life of its own. It will survive. It will survive without constant care and feeding. And once it has this kind of set of results, it creates belief. And once you have that belief, and that was mentioned, I believe, by Dr. Robertson, once we have the belief that our people are treated with dignity and respect, that they have challenge, that they will be mentored, that they have leadership opportunities, that we encourage them to be the very best at who they are, they will come back. And they will come back not only in good circumstances, they will come back when you need them the most. And even though that's actually 5 seasons, those 5 seasons have shown that the particular Vitalize program is durable, it is applicable, it works. And once you do the actual commitment to creating the architecture of using these particular things, it will be a long time self-sustaining program that means you will be profitable. Thank you for listening.
That's fascinating. I absolutely love the case study. Over to you, Margot.
Oh, by now you know that we have some expertise in this arena, some very deep expertise in different industries. We have taken a look at the problem of employee lack of engagement and how do you get employees to come back, encourage them to come back, and how do you reduce the resignation and retain them. So when we take a look at the Vitalize methods, they're streamlined, they're efficient. Again, we went from complex to simple to replicable, customizable, and absolutely sustainable for momentum. They're quick and accurate with the 80-20 approach. And the biggest thing, it is from the people leadership is from the top down. The commitment needs to be from the top. The commitment to move to change that underlying employee management culture from one that actually manages in stagnation to vitality leadership is an executive decision and commitment. Once that's made, we can help establish the rapport and the collaboration with teams to help you instill it across your organization. It applies solutions and addresses the causes, and therefore we actually definitely and measurably change the results. It involves the whole workforce, not just one person at a time. It enables progress tracking and ROI, and yes, absolutely replicable across organizations. Asking in the beginning, people asking, why are we different? We're going to address it now. We address the real causes of employee stagnation and resignation. We provide systematic methods to create sustainable momentum. We work at all levels of the organization at once, so it's a system and a new culture for your organization, customizable, measurable from the inside out. So in next steps, work with us. One thing for sure is coming out of shutdown and everything that's going on in the market, the issue of getting employees back to work, keeping them, reducing the resignation, it is an issue that's going to increase and increase and increase. The loss of wisdom for the flow of employees leaving and the difficulty to retrain, it is huge. And the only thing we can say is decide now, start now, make a decision to start someplace and start addressing this issue that employees need to have a sense of future while working for you, not just a paycheck or a benefit. We offer a wide range of services. We can do executive roundtables, retreats, workshops, advisory, training, coaching. And so let's explore how vitality leadership can actually attract employees to your organization and improve retention and ROI.
Thank you, Margot. That's absolutely wonderfully wrapped up. I would now just like to read out a few questions, and then I'll open it up to hear everyone's thoughts. And I think James could take us around that. So I've got here, this all sounds very interesting, and I'd love to introduce vitality principles to my team. However, you mentioned that this works from the top down, and my company's leadership is difficult to pin down. Is it possible to implement core vitality principles with my immediate team? I think for you, Margot, that would be a good one.
The answer is absolutely. As you can see, some of these are very basic, elemental. How do you move people from having stagnant vision of who they are while they're working for you to having personal initiative and momentum and saying, yes, I'm interested in being here. I can see my future here with you. And I know that now that you've laid that out for me, I know I can get there working with you. That is huge. So the answer is absolutely.
Okay, I've got one for James. That sounds great. How much does it cost?
The $1 million question, isn't it? Basically, the way we would recommend that we would start an engagement with you would be to do a pulse measurement, that one day series of one-on-one interviews with your executive team or the departmental management team. At the end of that, we would give you our diagnosis of the situation, and we would also give you an overview of what we think the solution is, and we would then co-create a solution for you, taking account of that interaction. And on that basis, we will give you a quote for the work that's required. In order to get there, we have a special offer at the moment associated with this webinar. Margot and myself will engage with your people on Zoom for a day for a fee of $1,000 US. And from there, we can figure out the budget for the rest of the work. Thanks very much.
It can all be done remotely, I'm assuming.
It can all be done remotely, yes, on Zoom.
Okay. How does this differ from typical culture transformation initiatives? Margot?
Culture transformation initiatives have been to change the atmosphere in the organization on the outside. You can, and not demeaning anybody's efforts, but changing the color, changing the food, changing the parking lot, changing all of that stuff may make people happier, but it doesn't change your underlying problem. And that is the underlying problem. Do they feel that they have a sense of future working for you? If they don't have a sense of future working for you, it's called internal welfare thinking. They're just working for benefits and salary. And that's not a committed employee. That's an employee that says, if there's a little tiny bit more I get on the outside, I'm gone. So what we want to do is really establish it on the inside. We work from the inside out. We work on the causes to transform that list of employee negative pain into something that literally lifts them and moves them forward in their own life. So we do work from the top down. But the other thing we do is we work at all levels of the organization. And for those CEOs who really said, well, what's in it for me? What's in it for you is recognition as an organization of being a vitality leadership organization led by you. And that is a high marketing value amidst all of the organizations who may not be looking at their employees, may not be able to walk through this next 6 months to 2 years marketplace. It lifts you up to the top.
Okay. Do you provide consultancy for micro businesses? We only have 3 people in our company. James, for you?
Yeah, we can certainly help you. No business is too small. I guess if you're a one-person business, you'd have a problem if you needed our services. But certainly we can help a small business by all means.
And I would just like to add to that, if you are a startup and you are at any phase of a startup, you might want to talk to us, because what you want to do is learn the basics of vitality leadership to instill in your organization now as you design it and you build it out, because it's much easier to design it in now than 3 or 5 years down the road and say, I wish I had. So yes, by all means, call us.
Do these principles work across all sectors?
Absolutely. Because we do have expertise in a lot of industries, and certainly I've been in 11, it's necessary to understand what the core issues are. The core issues, and because the core issues are the same in almost every company, they just show up differently. And so the book is written to apply to, with the principles and practices to apply to any industry. It's customizable, and absolutely.
I think if we can open up to the floor, James, can you facilitate this
Right.
part?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Darren, let's go around the room. Patrick, would you have any questions or any comments, anything you'd like to share with us? You are muted if you'd like to unmute.
No, I found this very interesting. Hold on, let me start the video here. Give John you full fledged. Yeah, no, we're 13. We have a lot of part-timers, which can be a challenge. But I hear you loud and clear in terms of the importance of having a vision that goes beyond just a year.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. Tim, anything you'd like to ask or share? You are muted.
Yes, sure. Just one quick question. I'm curious, about the implementation. Has there been a time where there's apprehension about, working with you, and how is that dealt with? Apprehension from employees.
I think that there's pretty much always apprehension when somebody new comes in, particularly when it's talking about people issues. And the approach there is we're very collaborative, we're very transparent, we're very open, and we build credibility with the team very quickly.
And Patrick, Tim, were you thinking about working with us, or were you thinking about even addressing this whole employee issue? Because there's a lot of intrepidation because there have been so many people spending so much money and so much effort to absolutely no avail. So there is resistance there too. Which were you thinking about?
Well, I'm a solo practice, but I was more thinking from an implementation perspective. How are these, apprehensions approached? I could think, some employees may think, oh, look, I'm going to get assessed, and based on the scores, I may be let go. There could be always these fears. So, just wondering, how is those approached?
I'll let James speak to the assessment piece, but on the implementation, what we say is start where you're comfortable. We're not going to come in and steamroll over anything. You have to start where you're comfortable and understand that what you eventually want to put together, you want to put in place, is a system that actually slowly evolves your employees and the opportunity for your employees and your organization from the inside out. So there's nothing jarring. Pardon me?
No, Carol.
There's nothing jarring. It just it's a flow.
Tim, I think where we start with an assessment, which is the first sort of real contact that the majority of the staff would have with us. We open that up with an initial presentation, either in person or on Zoom, which just sets the scene. One of the things that we require from a client, before we start an engagement, is that there's a clear understanding that what we do is not going to be used as a weapon to disadvantage anybody who's responsive to our assessments, etc. And as I say, we don't disclose the names of the respondents of the assessments except under certain very specific circumstances. So it's a big topic. Difficult to answer it online like this, but yes, basically we are very aware of it.
Margaret, can I ask you something? It just occurred to me. I don't get the impression from what I've watched and seen through these webinars that you're trying to come in like a policeman. You're not trying to come in to police up everybody and increase productivity and make more sales. It's not necessary about that. So I don't think that idea of if you answered wrong, we're going to fire you, or you didn't meet the criteria. I think it's got a different motivation.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could speak to that a little bit, Margaret.
I think that's a good point, because the throughput, the productivity is going to be an end result. So we don't focus on that. We don't have to measure that. If one of the things, if you take a look at what it is that the employees don't like, if you can instill just learning the 7 required core skills, and saying with that, you can develop a vitality leadership certification you can add to your CV, and it will increase your ability to, your ability to be promoted, and we can better assess all your skills and where you want to go. That's all heart-centered stuff. That's all, we really care about you, and this isn't just about us. That's all win-win stuff. And so it's very necessary.
Thanks, Margaret. Devin, your thoughts, comments, questions?
Yeah, I like how the program is approaching it from finding the root causes of these issues. One of the main things that I've seen in the business world is a complete lack of leadership at the lower levels throughout an organization. When you say leadership, that implies the people up top, the C-suite level, and they certainly, refer to themselves as the leadership staff, which they are. But the distinction that I make is they're leading a company, an organization. The employees need a day-to-day leader, someone that they're working with, they're interacting with, that's down there at their level and engaged with them on a regular basis. This is a systemic issue that's happened slowly throughout the business world, and it is coming to a head. And Margot pointed out a lot of this in her part of the presentation, and it's true. And this definitely works towards that. And it's not attacking or going after the symptoms. It recognizes that these are just symptoms. These are side effects. Like the way employees view themselves as being treated. Well, they don't care about me. Why should I care? Why should I put in more effort? I'm not going to get anything in return for that. I have no reason to put myself out there because it doesn't go anywhere. And this system sounds like it sees that, but doesn't go after that specifically. It sees it as a symptom and says, let's find the root cause to this, right? Let's take on a culture where the company's enhancing its human capital, not just using them as workers to get productivity out of. So those pieces I think are really important. I really resonate with that. And I like how the system is working from an inside root cause approach versus just trying to find all the symptoms that don't work and fix them.
Great. Thanks, Devin.
Thank you.
Mary, any thoughts from your side? Any questions? You're muted.
I was most impressed with Dan's report of how he worked with the employees in his lodge and the experience over 3 years. It was nice to see a report of it actually working and how it works and how the employee morale improved and that sort of thing. I was really impressed with that.
And to an extent, he understated it. I mean, the overall statistics of the improvements of performance over those 3 years are actually quite boggling, actually.
Yes, that was good. My experience when I was working was more along the lines of if you stepped up to take any step toward leadership, even if you weren't a supervisor, if you were just trying to work with the other employees, the way Devin was talking about. Most often your supervisors would then say, no, you're overstepping your bounds, go back in your little corner. And that's a hard thing to get through when you're on the employee side. So from an employee's perspective, I like the sound of your program, and I like the heart-centered way of approaching how to work with the people and find out what it is that they need and what they want. Because employees don't get asked that very much.
I think coming back to the question earlier of the implementation, I think people quite quickly pick up that this is a different way of looking at things. Folks, we're out of time. In fact, we're 3 minutes over. Darren, over to you to wrap up.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time to come. Patrick, I feel that there was definitely a conversation to be had there about how the program would work with part-timers. I felt that you mentioned that it's a different kind of business dynamic, and I'd love us to take that offline at some point. Perhaps you and Margot could swap details or something. But I think that there's definitely some insights that you could gain that would be relevant for your situation. Anyway,
you may be right. Let's touch base by email in the aftermath of this.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So copy of the presentation will be sent to you shortly. Copy of the video will be with you within 48 hours. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.